Welcome to FMH Insurecast, a podcast created by Farmers Mutual Hail designed to deliver expertise and insights from trusted FMH team members and industry experts. Each new episode will dive into new products, industry updates, and innovative solutions. Let's get to today's topic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to FMH Insurecast, and thank you so much for tuning in. We just finished recording our crop insurance decisions episode in real time 10 minutes ago, but you're seeing this hopefully around the same time we released both episodes. And we thought we'd add a bonus on driving a little deeper into the FSA programs. We have Ken and Derek here still. Hopefully we don't need to reintroduce you guys, but Ken is our Northwest Regional Sales Manager. Derek is a regional trainer based out of Kentucky, so he handles a good portion of the Southeast. So folks that are dealing and talking with us every day, either with our agents or customers from a training or a sales and a management perspective. And Ken, as a farmer, he's making these decisions himself. So Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you in a second. You've had a lot of positive response, I know, from a presentation you're going to give us that you've been delivering at farmer meetings and to others, right? You've done it to the sales team. You've provided to a number of audiences. And I think the response was favorable enough. It's like, well, let's put that out on an FMH Insurecast and provide that information to our listeners and viewers because it does provide, and I've seen it myself, it provides some excellent information that helps you make the best decisions going forward into 2025. So what I'll do, Ken, is I'll turn it over to you to share your screen. And take us away, if you would.
So again, we want to dive into the ARC PLC decisions, what we're going to be talking about. And so let's start actually at the top. So this Farm Bill, 2014 Farm Bill came out, introduced these different products to us available. So just want to, at a high level again, kind of go through what the options are to producers. So by farm number, you have the ability to go to PLC, as you can see here, or county ARC, egg risk coverage, which gives you county ARC or ARC individual. So, and I've highlighted with the bubbles there, county ARC and PLC, because those tend to be the most actively used policies that are out there, especially for corn, soybeans, and wheat. Again, not downplaying ARC individual at all, because there's definitely places for that. But those two, the county level, are the bigger players of the two. Now, if you do add PLC, so price loss coverage, then that does give you, through crop insurance, the product SCO, which we'll talk more about here in a couple slides. But again, one change that just came out from FSA here very recently is they did move the sign-up date for ARC PLC decision out to April 15th this year. Prior years, it's been the same as our crop insurance deadline of March 15th. Again, you make this decision by crop, by commodity. So within a farm number, you can choose, let's say farm number 1, 2, 3, 4, I could have county ARC for corn and I could have PLC for beans. So you do have that flexibility by farm number, by commodity, so which it gives you several pieces of flexibility there. But if you choose county ARC, just remember you cannot buy SCO. That one does have to be tied with PLC.
And Ken, I may chime in just for a second as a reminder with stacks. And so I'll try to save most of my comments for the end and talk just a little bit more about stacks with cotton. But with stacks, you cannot have ARC or PLC. So just a clarification point there. We're talking about SCO. PLC is acceptable there, but if you're talking with stacks, you want to put stacks on cotton, then that eliminates you from eligibility for ARC or PLC.
Yeah, that's
great point. Thanks for bringing it in.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Like I've told Dave, I know nothing about stacks. I mean, I know how to spell it, STAX, but that's where my knowledge level ends. So Derek is our expert here. So thank you, Derek. Appreciate you calling that out. Just really quickly, if we are on the PLC or county ARC or ARC individual, just to give you a reminder on the differences on how they're paying. They all pay on base acres, and base acres, I won't really go into how those were founded, but that's data that's available at the FSA office, and it depends on what plan you sign up for determines what base acres you are paid on. So if you're a PLC or county ARC, you're paid on 85%. ARC individual goes to 65% of those base acres. But if you do PLC and then decide to buy SCO through your crop insurance agent, then you can get SCO tied to 100% of your planted acres. So lots of moving parts here when it comes to acres and what can be mix and match and how that's done. And Dirk, is it similar with like stacks? Is there is it tied to a base with stacks or is
Yeah,
that not?
stacks is also tied back to those base acres. So
Okay.
you're really looking at tying those stacks acres. Probably one of the biggest differences is, and you'll probably get into this talking a little bit more with SEO, is it's a completely off the area side when you're talking about the stacks program. So stacks, excuse me, not based off the base acres. It is going to be your planted acres,
Okay.
but the stacks is going to be 100% area based, and so it doesn't bring its underlying APH database into the equation like you would with SCO or ECO.
Very good. Here we go. Learning as we go for me. Thank you. One thing, as we talk about base acres for the FSA side of things, I just want to stress it's very critical for producers if they have access to an account on the farmers.gov website or go into the local FSA office and get a copy of your 156EZ form. That is your form that tells you everything, what you have signed up for by crop, by farm number. It also gives you your PLC yield, as you can see on this example here, and it gives you what your base acres are for each of those commodities of that farm number. So critical, because all that information is what's in part of the calculations when we're determining how each of these programs are paying. So please take the time to get that, because without this information, you're making decisions without critical information. Just to kind of a highlight here, marketing year prices. So all the FSA programs are tied to a marketing year average price. So that just starts in September and goes through August of the following year. So we're in the 24 price discovery right now, which will wrap up in August. We won't start the discovery for the 25 crop year until September 1st of 2025 and end in August of 2026. But on here, I just highlighted a couple, the major crops that are always talked about: wheat, corn, and soybeans. Just today, as we're recording this morning, they came out with a new WASI report, and they did make some changes. So this slide originally had the January report. Wheat stayed the same. We stayed at 555 for what they're expecting for the ending price for wheat for the 24 crop. Corn, they bumped up 10 cents, and beans, they bumped down 10 cents. So again, that's a number that changes every month with the as part of the WASI report as that comes out. So, all right, let's get into some more of the meat here, and that's going to be tied to the programs themselves. So PLC, price loss coverage. So that's a floor. Think of that as a put, so to speak, for commodities. And looking at corn, soybeans, and wheat here, what this product does is it always looks at the Olympic price. So we're going to take out the prior years. We're going to look at the high, take out the high, take out the low, and average the middle of 3. So the original Farm Bill in 2014 came out with 370 on corn and 840 on beans and 550 on wheat. The 2018 Farm Bill put in some language that allowed us to have that number move up to be 85% of the prior 5-year average, but it could never go higher than 115%. 2024 was the first time that we ever had that happen, where the prices moved up off of these 370 and 840 and 550 floors. For 2026, or excuse me, 2025, we have a couple of them, as you can see with the double asterisk there, that have actually hit the cap. Corn can go no higher. 426 is as high as it can go, and beans is capped at 966. So to have any loss with those products with PLC, we have to have the average price fall below these prices here to trigger any payment, and then that payment would be multiplied times that PLC yield that's at FSA times then 85% of your base acres. So this is good news. This 426 does give us a nice floor with PLC for corn. 966 for beans is still quite a bit below the market, and then also the wheat is kind of lower too. But this is a nice change over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that little context on the cotton side, PLC reference price on cotton right now is a 0.367, so just a little better than 36.5 cents. kind of color that just a little bit. I know our crop insurance price currently is at 69 cents, but
Mhm.
when you're looking at the FSA programs, if we're going to look at those in regards to cotton, those are cotton seed. And so that it's actually taken lint and the cotton seed. So if you're equating that to crop insurance, that would be like your lint coverage and your seed endorsement combined. And so just add a little, maybe a little context to that. 40.5 cents is what we're sitting at for our Ark County price.
Okay. No, thanks, Derek. All right, so we'll switch gears now to the ARC policy. So looking at how those prices, one of the benefits of the prior slide, the PLC reference price, that becomes a floor price in the ARC County and ARC individual price discovery. So we can see on my slide here, where like in 2019 on corn, 356 was the actual. That price is knocked out and replaced with 426. So no price can be below the new 426 floor of PLC. So that's why we're seeing such a nice movement up in, for example, corn and soybeans. So again, it's a 5-year Olympic. We take out the high price, we take out the low, and we average the middle three. So corn for 2025, as you can see, is a $5.03 Arc County spring price. Think of that as the crop insurance price for the FSA Arc County program. Last year, corn was at 485, and you can see beans moved up very nice to 1217, and wheat as well moved up to 672 compared to what the 2024 prices were of 485 for corn, 1112, and 621. So nice moves up there, moves that guarantee higher for these Arc County products. These are 86% policies, again, Arc County is. So you should probably take that number times 86% when you're comparing it to Arc County. So if we do that, Arc County 503 becomes a 433 price. So if we're comparing PLC at 426 versus Arc County at 433, still an advantage County Arc, but it's a lot closer discussion. And beans, it's not even worth doing the math, or wheat, because both of those are still significantly better than what we would have with the PLC price if we're just comparing PLC to County Arc.
Hey, Ken, so given those increase, particularly on corn,
Mhm.
I'm sure you'd agree, but I'm curious as to both your guys' thoughts on this. The the assumption we talked about, I'm crossing episodes here. We talked about it last episode, but the assumption that, oh, hey, our county's the way to go and it's the way to go everywhere, I'm sure is fed pretty significantly from what we're looking at right here.
Oh,
Would you agree?
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. When you see $5.03, every farmer that
Right.
grows corn is like, oh, what did you say?
Right.
$5
Well, I
corn?
was like, all right, that's my choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But you need to know that that's an 86% policy. So effectively, that's an 86% of that price. So that's where it's a little tighter mix, especially with corn, beans, and wheat, not so much.
Not so much.
Mhm. All right. Now let's take a look actually at, this next slide, looking at what is the decision, which way should a guy go, and the critical thing, like I mentioned on our prior podcast, was you got to dig into the numbers. So having the opportunity to go around and talk within my region for some farmer meetings, I pulled up a couple counties here. So the top one on here, Faribault, Minnesota, is the county I live in. So that's a county I pay very close attention to. But I was out in Huron, South Dakota, doing a grower meeting out there and pulled up Beetle County because I wanted to do the same look back. What I'm doing here is I'm not making up any numbers. These are all numbers that are coming either from FSA or from USDA or RMA. So for example, on here on Minnesota corn, our 5-year Olympic yield is 220, just short of 221. What that's doing is looking at the prior 5 years of actual yields, RMA yields. Then they add trend to it and they take out the high, they take out the low, and they average the middle three. So think of that as the APH for the county for County Arc. So 221 is a very good county guarantee. Now, if we contrast that with South Dakota Beetle County, it comes in at just short of 132. And why I say, okay, obviously we're going to have different yields between Beetle County, South Dakota, and Faribault County, Minnesota, just completely different land. But why I say it's a very critical thing to take a look at is if we go over to the right and we look at the estimated yield for 2025 For ECO, which is a plan that's gaining a lot of popularity, it's an area plan. The expected county yield for ECO from the RMA is 217.3 for Faribault County, and it's 150 for ECO in Beetle, South Dakota on non-irrigated ground. So if the RMA is saying the yield for the Beetle County should be 150, but Ark County is saying that the guarantee is only 131 or just short of 132, we've got a problem here because now we have a targeted yield for a crop insurance product that is almost 20 bushels better than a yield that we're seeing from a guarantee side with the county ARC. So it definitely is a critical thing to look at is your Olympic yield for your county for county ARC good? If it's low because of prior bad years, that takes away some of the attractiveness for county ARC. The 390 price that I have on here, so the USDA comes out with quarterly ag estimates, and this is from October of last year. 390 is what they projected, and my next slide will show a number that another group is projecting for 25. But at 390, so we're just taking that 390 price times that yield, that comes up with what is our truly estimated revenue. So our guarantee is going to, or our payment for county ARC would be the guarantee, the revenue guarantee minus what the actual estimated revenue is in a shortfall, and then capped at that maximum payment. So in this case, Faribault County would be estimated at $107 using those two, that yield and that price. If those two things come into play, that's what we could see for Faribault County for county ARC. Having seen a number like that, there's definitely attractiveness to county ARC because it's a free program and you've got potentially almost a max payment because of a high 503 spring price with the county ARC product. Now, contrast that with Beetle, South Dakota, where we have that 150 yield in the 390. We're $15 short of that guarantee, so nothing would pay out if our expected county yield comes to be like we're expecting for crop insurance. So that takes the luster off it for our county in that example. May lead then to the bottom of our slide here when we look at PLC. We're looking at that 426 price. If we come in at 390, like the USD ag estimate is for 2025, that would be paying 36 cents out times whatever that PLC yield is. So this 168 that's on this slide here is off of that previous slide where it was one of my farm numbers here in Minnesota. So we take 168 times 36 gives us that $60 an acre payment. So if you're contrasting PLC to ARC here, county ARC is 40 plus dollars better than PLC, and definitely is going to have me leaning towards county ARC for mine. But in Beetle, South Dakota, if there's nothing for county ARC, but we're looking at potentially a $43 payment through PLC if that price comes into play, and I just estimated maybe a PLC yield out there at 120, it would definitely lead you towards PLC more so than county ARC. And again, both of these do pay out at 85% of your corn base acres. So it'd be 85% of that number effectively. Any questions, guys, on that one?
Well, Ken, I would just echo that we've had some of this FSA program discussion regardless of the crop as we've been going through the update meetings in the South, and the same concept applies. You may look at a county and it looks like it's just got a fantastic yield going into 25, and you may go a couple of counties the other direction and it doesn't look nearly as attractive. So kind of try to talk about going to that FSA website, looking at all this information's online. It's pretty easy to access, and you can see just specifically by the county where these numbers are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You can, if you go to, especially if you want to get like the ARC, this information as far as the county yield and stuff, you can go to farmers.gov, just type in ARC PLC, and this spreadsheet is available right off of their website. So all these tools are available to have what's critical information for making these decisions.
And from my standpoint too, Ken, just to really put a fine point on this, this is an excellent example of showing where we're not trying to advise a broad brush, nor should anyone else really dig into the numbers. I mean, I think that's kind of the through line throughout this whole discussion that I think is critical for people to take away.
Yeah. And I should preface on here too. So out at the meeting I did out in Huron, South Dakota, talked to a producer there that during these previous 5 years, he personally had very good yields in those years. So for him, it may make sense for him to buy ARC individual because he's got good yields over those prior 5 years. So then ARC individual works off of your yields, not the county yields, to determine the loss. One thing to keep in mind, though, if you do ARC individual, it combines all commodities and all farm numbers that you sign up for ARC individual together. So it all becomes one basically basket of coverage, and together all commodities and all farm numbers you sign up. So you could put, one or two farm numbers in. You don't have to put them all in, but it does let then it work off of your yield. So it's definitely something to think about if the county is at risk. And to that point, let me just go to my next slide here. So FarmDoc, so from the University of Illinois, they came out with their revised price estimate for 2025 here in January, and they are predicting now a 430 price for 2025 versus that 390. So same yields on here with the 430. So if I look at Faribault County, a 430 goes from 107 down to $20, just short of $21. So takes a little luster off of ARC being that slam dunk decision. But having said that, if that holds true, PLC is
right.
zero. So it doesn't matter. So
Still,
then the discussion is, okay, maybe we got to look at something else beyond that, which we'll cover here in a couple slides. So, but yeah, any other questions on this, guys? Like I say, it's all crystal ball. What is your estimate for the county yield? What do you think is going to be the national yield from a price standpoint? Those are the key numbers. Then none of us can predict those accurately, right? So
yeah. Now, again, that is excellent examples.
Let's switch to soybeans really quick here too. Same concept, same similar math. Again, not as drastic for the difference as far as like having zero payment for South Dakota for Beadle County. But again, that year was those prior 5 years for this discovery for their yield was some tougher yielding years for Beadle County. So just short of a 40 bushel Olympic yield for that county does bring that opportunity for a payment down quite a bit. Again, the $10 that's showing here on this example is that same October quarterly USDA ag estimate. Just for reference, and maybe I don't know if this will come out before that, but February 27th is when the USDA is going to provide the latest quarterly estimate for 2025. So later in the month here, we'll see what they say these numbers will be as well. All right. And then let's just switch it here again. So FarmDoc, they changed and they bumped their number up to 1020 on soybeans. So again, knocks PLC out completely, no matter which number we use there, since we're above the 966. But if we go to 1020, knocks Beadle County out completely, and it brings down the Faribault County number as well. So yeah, any questions on that, guys?
No, it's a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Just look through that crystal ball a little clearer, Ken. I'd like to know more for sure.
Yeah. Because the nice thing is, if we knew exactly what that crystal ball was, we could even make this decision easier. Because if you're in a county where, hey, county ARC really doesn't look very favorable, PLC, could pay, could not pay, but it opens up the door for SCO. And that's really what we want to look at is, let's compare ARC County versus SCO, because that's what we, is built, liabilities are built on our own individual APHs with SCO. So this example here, again, I'm just going to look at Faribault County for this example. So the county I'm in, as I put this slide deck together, 468 was our, current spring price target for corn, 503 for county ARC, like we mentioned before. And I'm just going to use that 390 quarterly estimate there. So the county yield for SCO, again, for my county, either for ECO or SCO, is going to be that 217.3. Again, for my county, it's just short of 221 for FSA for county ARC. Want to point this out too, just so everybody understands the actual yield that drives payments for both county ARC and for ECO and SCO, at least for corn and soybeans and wheat, in my area is the same yield. It uses RMA yield data to drive that yield. So we're not using a NAS survey. We're using actual RMA data for both. So that's a key takeaway. So whatever the number is, it's the factor in this equation here. So if we compare these two side by side, right now for Faribault County, it's definitely leaning towards County ARC in this case because we got that 244 trigger to start triggering the first payment versus 224. But in both cases, that yield with this type of price drop is above what we're expecting for an expected county yield. Again, in this example here on SCO, using a 75% multiple, if the county comes below 195 or 196, we're triggering a full payment. So both have benefit. Like say, if your county ARC isn't going to pay those numbers, if say county ARC wasn't an option and wasn't going to work in Faribault County, Minnesota, SCO does provide some very nice coverage and something to consider for counties where county ARC is not a triggering a payment at this point. Any questions on that?
All good, right. Derek, any thoughts?
And I tell you, it's just really good information that runs through here. And I think just one thing to consider for our Southern listeners as well is HIP-WE. So you can have HIP-WE in conjunction with that SCO. And so that's a common misconception. ECO, no, but with SCO, HIP-WE does kick in at that 86 and takes you up to 95. So in either of these scenarios, you don't have that interaction with HIP-WE that you might have with ECO, for example. Hurricane protection, that's going to be a big decision this year for a lot of folks in the South. Do I take the ECO or do I take the hurricane protection?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah. Thanks, Derek. Look here quickly to just soybeans. Same comparison here using the 1063 that we've got right now for price discovery. So similar concepts. Our county yield versus our county versus SCO are much closer. So our yields are obviously a little bit more trending towards county ARC, but it's a much closer decision. Again, then that could be based on your planted acres for coverage versus your base acres at 85% with our county. So again, look at the math. This is my county. Like say Beadle County, if I do this example, it may look completely different. But then my last slide regarding kind of some, somebody I've always asked, okay, which rule of thumb, which way do you go? How do you decide, based on prices? So what this chart is trying to show is in the middle here is our 503, 1217, 672. Those are the ARC county prices. And what we found with some of the analysis is as that spring price trends lower, it's going to be more in favor of RP if the RP price trends lower, it's more in favor of our county because we're going to have a higher county trigger yield or price, excuse me. On the right-hand side here, if we're trending higher, that puts more emphasis on the SCO. So as we're tracking 463, 468 on corn, 1063 on beans, we're moving much closer to that discussion of, hey, we should be taking a look at SCO, maybe more so than looking at county ARC. But again, look at your county yields to make sure you have that determination from what our county is. But it's kind of a rule of thumb we've done looking at some of the data over the last few years. So
yeah, I was just gonna say I really like this one because it gives some folks something to think about, a rule of thumb, actually that's like, okay, as prices change, how should I be thinking about this rather than doing new calculations every day, right? So I really like that takeaway from this slide.
You bet. Sounds good. Well, that was my last slide. I'll stop sharing here. And I know, Derek, you've got a few things that you may want to interject too.
Yeah, really just a couple of things that I'm sure we've gotten some different parts of the country, but especially in the South. One is the base acre conversation. So I know that has come up quite a bit, talking with some different producers and agents around stacks coverage, especially. Do you have the base acres out there? So we might be growing 5 or 6 different crops in rotation. And I've had some producers and agents say that, well, if I've got somebody with a pretty good bucket of cotton acres, then we're probably going to be looking a little bit more closely at PLC and ARC programs. Whereas if I've got somebody who might not have a very good bucket of base acres available for those programs, then we're definitely going to be looking at the stacks program. So base acres definitely a big consideration. obviously stacks, SCO, ECO based on those planted acres, which can be quite a difference in some instances. And then of course that 90 versus 86% trigger. So if, every little bit helps. And so that 90% trigger that you can get with stacks, most of the time when you see stacks bought, it's going to be purchased with that 90% trigger. However, if you've got the base acres and you've got the 86%, the guarantees look really good. I pulled some numbers just off of Mississippi County, Arkansas, and looking at a guarantee revenue of $1,214 with at 86%, that's 1,044 versus 967 and 870 respectively on a stacks program, and that is with a seed endorsement added onto that. So if they've got the base acres, again, it all boils down to that county yield and those county numbers. But if they've got the base acres, ARC and PLC look pretty good for cotton acres this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not saying it's a blanket statement. Just in some of our larger cotton counties, just pulling those numbers up, it does look pretty attractive there. Maybe one more thing to throw on there as well. I know for the Delta folks, especially, this may raise some hackles, but there have been quite a few audits going back into 2022 on stacks enrollment versus ARC and PLC participation. And there's a CCC 866, and it's the growers' elections by farm number. And that's maybe a best practice for an agent to ask for a copy of that, because once they get past that April 15th date, that should have them locked in to not have participated in ARC or PLC if they do want to participate with stacks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good advice.
I'm just going to echo too. It's so critical, whether it's that 156 EZ or the 866, because if you find out what you signed up for, but also get what your PLC yields are and your base acres, those items are so critical for making the right decision.
Well, that was perfect. That was exactly going to be my last question. What major takeaways? If there's one thing that folks need to take away, and of course, I really appreciate both you guys participating, going through that. Ken, thanks for going through in the detail that you're able to put together. It's super enlightening and very helpful for a lot of folks I know. And Derek, thanks for coming on to the last two podcasts now, and providing the insight from the southeastern U.S. So I just I can't thank you guys enough. It was great talking with you, and hopefully that our listeners and viewers were able to find some value in the discussion today. I know I certainly did. So I just want to say to everyone again, subscribe, like. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on the any of your podcast apps, and we will see everyone on the next FMH Insurecast. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to FMH Insurecast. We appreciate you joining us today and would like to hear from you. If you have questions about today's topic or an idea to share for an upcoming podcast, you can contact us at fmhpodcast@fmh.com. Thanks for listening. This podcast is intended for information purposes only. See policy provisions, terms, and conditions for details. Products underwritten by Farmers Mutual Hail Insurance Company of Iowa and its affiliates, West Des Moines, Iowa. Farmers Mutual Hail is an equal opportunity provider.